what's the average salary for a dentist in Houston or Miami or New York, and you see, oh, it's $175,000 or whatever it may be. And so you think that you're going to come out making $175,000, and that's not exactly the case. Staffing has gotten to be a little bit of a challenge over the years, especially in Miami. To those of you who don't know, Miami has one of the biggest skyrockets as far as cost of living goes.
Dr. Nelson, how you doing today?
Doing fantastic. How about yourself?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. As we always ask when we're moving through this kind of conversation, the first thing we want to do is ask what got you involved with the dentist or dental industry? What spiritual interest?
I've said this story many times to people who ask is the what got me into dentistry was I still remember this day like it was yesterday. I was actually in fourth grade. I was 10 years old, and my mom came picked me and my sister out of school, and she took us to the dentist, and we both got our cleanings done. And actually, my sister needed a filling completed, and unbeknownst to me, the dentist asked me if I wanted to come into the room while she was working on my sister, I'm sorry. And, I did not know at the time, I learned this actually in dental school, that this is actually a tool that they use to try to assuage fears from younger siblings, that when they work on older siblings, have the younger sibling into the room and they can see that working on them, there's actually nothing to fear and nothing to be scared about. But, I was far from fearful. But as I was leaning in and watching as she was working on my sister, I thought it was like the coolest thing ever. And so that's what got me interested in dentistry ever since then. And the more I learned about the profession, the more it pushed me into it.
Yeah, that's great, and I think that's a wonderful technique when you see. I mean, the young ones always want to follow. Whether it's the big sister or the big brother, they always want to be just as brave as they are. So that's a good technique. So now, do you work with younger people as well, babies?
I do. I
That's
do. I do. I see children as young as two. That's not necessarily the bulk of my practice, but as my practice has grown, I've had a lot of patients who've been with me for 10, 12, 15 years. I've kind of grown up with some of these patients. And so I've seen them date. I've seen them get married and get engaged, get married, have children. And now I'm starting to treat some of their children. So that's kind of like the evolution of me and my practice.
Yeah. Well, tell me a little bit about your space. I mean, how many operatories? How many staff members? Are they happy?
Well, I my in my practice I have five operatories. You typically initially when I first the design was for me to work out of three operatories and have hygiene work out of two operatories. But as I grew, heck, this happened right around a little bit after COVID, or right around COVID, where we actually needed three full-time hygienists because our hygiene book was so backed up in terms of like it was 2, 3 months down the road before you can get an appointment. And so I needed to open up a third hygiene room. So right now we run three hygiene rooms and two rooms for myself.
Awesome, awesome. Sounds like a good system. Um, so now did you say how many staff members you have?
Oh, I didn't mention that. I have nine full-time staff workers and I have one part-time.
Oh, okay. Are they happy?
Well, that's relative, right? Yes, they're happy. I mean, I've had some of my oldest staff members have been with me. I think my longest tenured staff worker has been with me almost 9 years, almost 10 years now.
Excellent.
Yeah, she came on with me about 2017.
Okay.
Staffing has gotten to be a little bit of a challenge over the years. And one of the reasons why is because of the economy, especially in Miami. To those of you who don't know, Miami has one of the biggest skyrockets as far as cost of living goes. And actually, a couple of years ago, I've lost a couple of staff members due to those costs, right? Where it became so expensive to live in Miami, that some of them were forced to move a little bit more north, or even out of the state completely. And so, unfortunately, I've had to kind of retool my staff over the years. But I've had some key core members who've been with me for um, you know, 9, 10, 7 years, 8 years, and so that's my base. Those are the staff members that the other staff goes to whenever they have a question or a problem or whatever it may be. But that was one of the challenges that we ran into, especially after COVID and stuff like that, is the cost of living increase in Miami. I mean, obviously, that's been going on all around the country, but especially in Miami, because we had an influx of folks from California and from New York.
Oh, wow.
People who were making 150,000 dollars a year, who were coming in, getting apartments or buying houses sight unseen, cash, and so that tremendously impacted my staff. But I've been very lucky that I have people who are dedicated enough to drive in from 30, 45 minutes away on a daily basis to be part of what we're doing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, what's your secret sauce, or are you willing to share that? How do you keep your clients happy? How do you attract your future? I'm sorry, your staff, and how do you create? I guess wanting to be there in that office, wanting to work for Dr. John Nelson. How do you keep that creativity?
Well,
What kind of creativity do you have to keep them coming in?
I think, well, maybe I'll save, I think, what the most important thing is till the end. But to me, obviously, compensation is important. Making sure that there's, obviously, people don't work for free. You have to, you have to have that carrot out there. And so for us, this is something actually I read in a book many, many years ago, and a book by a financial guy named Gary Cuddy. And it was in terms of bonuses and making sure that there's that constant carrot that you need to keep in front of your staff. And we've come up with a system where my staff gets I'm sorry, daily, monthly, and yearly bonuses based on our collections. And these numbers are, we typically do 1%. So we have our goal, our daily goals of collections. Right now, for us, our daily collection goal is $7,200 per day. And that kind of matriculates itself throughout the month. And then based on those numbers, then we come up with our monthly bonus. And based on the accumulations of our monthly bonuses, we come up with our yearly bonus. And so for our monthly bonus, it's 1% as well. And for a yearly bonus is 1% of whatever the yearly bonus was. So just to kind of give you an example, if a monthly bonus is $150,000, then that means that 1% of that is $1,500, and the staff, each individual staff members can get an opportunity of getting up to $1,500 for their monthly bonus. And if you extrapolate that, let's say you make that $1.5 million for our yearly bonus, then our staff has an opportunity to get $15,000 individually based on our yearly bonus.
Wow, that does encourage people to work harder and stay dedicated and focused. I appreciate that piece of information. I'm sure that's going to help people that's listening. So tell me, what was some of your most challenging times when you first got started?
Wow. Well, there's when I first got started in real life practice, and then there's when I first got started in my private practice. But when I first got started in my real life practice, I graduated in 2008, which was basically at the height or the beginning of the financial crisis that we underwent in this country, and not only in this country but around the world. But and so when I first started working out, was as when you're younger, you're thinking, I'm going to be a dentist, and and you look up on Google or whatever it is, and you say, what's the average salary for a dentist in Houston or Miami or New York? And you see, oh, it's $175,000 or whatever it may be. And so you think that you're going to come out making $175,000, and that's not exactly the case. When I first graduated, it was, my first year out, I made $47,000, which was not what I was expecting. And obviously it went up from there, um, but I was generally making about roughly about 35% of whatever I was collecting or whatever I was producing. And so in hindsight, when I think about it, I only produced maybe 150, $160,000. And, you have to be able to produce what your salary is going to be, right? In dentistry. So in some places now, especially with corporate dentistry, sometimes you can get some guaranteed salaries and things of that nature. But in the world of private practice, you basically have to eat what you kill. You can kill what you eat, so to speak, right? And so I did only maybe produce $150,000. So it doesn't matter how much knowledge you have, but your skills have to be able to match up with that. And furthermore, the patients have to be able to believe in you. And so that was one of the challenges that I had early on, is not only the economy was stinking, which is, when people first come out, that when people first start facing financial challenges, one of the first things that they cut back on is terms of is what they deem as luxuries. And dentistry, as far as healthcare goes, sometimes is seen as a luxury or uh, not a most important item on the menu. And so whenever they get faced in front of a situation where they deem that they may not be able to afford something, one of the first things they need to cut back on is, okay, I'll cut back on my dentistry. And one quick little thing I'll add to that is, I feel like I always can tell what the economy in Miami is doing, because in Miami we're a service industry. So I see a lot of bartenders and a lot of waitresses and waiters and people who work for people, right, or people who serve people for their job. And whenever a patient comes in, and let's say they're a bartender and they have a tooth that really, really hurts, and I look at them and I say, you're going to need a root canal, a buildup, and a crown on this tooth. And the root canal buildup and a crown is $2,000, and versus extracting the tooth, which is $300 or $400. Whenever people are doing well, and I tell them, hey, this is going to cost $2,000, they say, okay, doc, go ahead and do it. But when the economy is struggling a little bit, they'll think about it, and then at the end of the day, they'll be like, you know what, doc, as much as I want to, you got to pull it. And so that's how you can so I can kind of tell how our economy is doing locally, because I see so many people who are in the service industry.
What a frightening way to make a decision,
Yeah.
man. Wow. Well,
And you could actually see them processing this information and making that decision. And I've seen it so many times over the years. Initially, at the beginning, I was kind of like, oh, wow, okay. But over the years, I kind of learned to read those cues, and so that now I could clearly see it from coming from a mile away.
that's interesting. So, as you got past the $47,000 and you moved on down the road, when was your next big bump? I mean, like you started year one, was it year four or five? Was it, I don't know. You tell me. When was
Well,
it? You said, oh my goodness, now I'm beginning to see how things are working here.
I started looking at dentistry as I started getting more and deeper into practice of, obviously you have to be able to, treatment plan and know exactly, okay, this is what a patient needs. Um, and, and so you need to be able to see what's going on or what the patient needs, but not only that, but you need to be able to communicate that with the patient. So, and in order to see what's going on and, to know exactly what the diagnosis is or how to move forward with it is, you have to be able to know, because if you don't know, then you can't talk to the patient about what's going on. And then they're not going to feel own, they don't feel like the problem is theirs, so to speak, because they don't know. And so when I started learning more, and I equate this to a little bit to be, especially at the moment in time of, getting in the gym and shooting basketball. I mean, at the time, Kobe Bryant was one of the best basketball players in the country. And he always talked about, or in the world, I should say, and he always talked about getting in the gym, working on his game, right?
Mhm.
And when I started realizing that I needed to get in the gym and just like a professional athlete and work on my game, uh, on my dental game, that's when things started rising up for me. And
That's
so
awesome.
the knowledge of what you're doing and then learning those skills and improving on those skills and then be able to communicate to the patient what you're doing, that's when things started steady rising up for me. And at the end of the day, it's just regular, kindness, and knowing that you care. When I first started practicing, I started splitting my time between two offices. One of the offices that I was working in is in a place in Miami here called Hialeah, which is, predominantly Spanish speaking. And as you could tell, I am not a traditional Spanish speaker, although, over the years I've learned how to speak Spanish. But um, and early on, I couldn't necessarily communicate with my patients. I leaned on my assistants and my staff to communicate with the patients, but the patients kept coming back to me, and the patients kept wanting to see me, even though there was a language barrier. They could feel that I cared. They could feel that I would go the extra mile for them, or I would work hard for them, and um, and beyond the language barrier, people pick up on your energy. And so I think that's a lot that has to do with it is having passion for what you want to do, but also having the knowledge for what you want to do. And so if you want to take your game to the next level, you got to have the knowledge in dentistry.
Hmm. Hmm. So tell me about your mentor or mentors. Did you have a few, or and how did that work?
Oh yeah, I had a few. Some of them for different reasons, meaning they taught me different things. But the first mentor that I met, I'm actually ashamed to say this. Not maybe I'm not ashamed, but the funny thing is, I actually first met him when I was a senior in dental school. He actually came to our class and was talking about a product named Arrestin, which is irrelevant here and there. But he was talking to our class about not only this particular product, but he was also talking about his experiences. And he was actually a white Jewish guy from Brooklyn, New York, who actually went to Howard University back in the 80s.
Wow.
So, and he was now practicing in Miami. And after the course, or after his course they've seen, I ran up to the big front of the class, started a conversation. Hey, I'm moving back to Miami. And he said to me just like this, because at the time it was the hot show, but he said to me just like this. He says, uh, "I'm Donald Trump. Do you want to be my apprentice?" I wish I was lying, but it was honestly the truth of what he said, and I was like, yeah. And sure enough, came down for Christmas break, started seeing stuff in his practice, and he told me after being around for about a week or two, he came to me and said, "Listen, I know you're graduating in May. Um, as long as you do the things that you need to do, get your license, I have a job for you here." And sure enough, graduated. Did what I do to get my license in Florida. And I remember the first day because I kept going to the office even when I was waiting for my license to come through and all that stuff. And I remember the day that I first got my license, I sat in his office and he started scribbling some things on a paper. And he slid me this paper and he said, "Okay, here's what you need to do. Here's the number to my accountant. You need to set up your own LLC in order for you to, collect these checks, set up your accounting, um, uh, open up bank accounts, open up a business. This is what you need to do. Here's the number to my insurance guy. Okay, he's your disability insurance. He's your health insurance. He's your malpractice insurance guy, right? Set these up now. And now he was saying, in regards to your health and your disability insurance, it is cheaper when you're younger, right? And so you're healthy right now. I mean, at the time I was 26, 27 years old. He said, you're healthy right now. Go ahead and just lock in your rate, lock in your price now for your lifetime, and it won't be expensive, right? So he set me with this insurance guy. And then in terms of, I mean, he sat on the board for one of the big DentaQuest, which is one of the big insurance companies out there, and on their insurance review board. So for him, it was also about teaching me ethics, doing things the right way. In terms of dentistry, make sure you document yourself, making sure. So all these things that he put in front of me, teaching me how to invest, you know, and all those things, and obviously taught me how to run a practice and all. But the fact that he sat down on day one and said, "This is what you need to do to set yourself up for a lifetime," um, was just knowledge that I could never. That I try to give back to others just because, and this is part of the reason why I'm here right now, is because that information was so valuable to me. And it really set and as I was talking to my colleagues, none of them had people who helped them out like this. And so, this white Jewish guy who went to Howard, uh, taught this young black male had he put him up on his shoulder and carried me and showed me how to properly enter dentistry and properly set myself up for a lifetime.
And is this the same guy you were talking about when we met in Chicago?
Yes, this is the same guy. His name is I'll shout him out right now. His name is Dirk Fleischman. And not only that, but as I was working for him, he was a really good businessman as well. He taught me a lot in regards to the business of dentistry. Um, and I think one of the most important things, that underrated things that maybe I haven't given him credit for, but this is something that our practicing philosophy has always mattered. His thing was always, there's no need to advertise, right? You treat people right, you do things the right way, the referrals will keep coming. And I actually took that to heart. And to this day, since I started my own practice, I've probably spent less than $10,000 on marketing throughout the 15 years of my practice, or close to 15 years. And every day when we sit in huddle and they're telling me about a new patient who's coming in, or they're getting referred from this particular patient or that particular patient. And yesterday, I wish I was lying, but yesterday, my last patient of the afternoon, I'm working and doing a crown on him. And the patient's telling me, "Doc, I try to send some people your way, some people who live in my building, and I try to refer you some people." And I was driving by the building with my friends in the car. And as soon as I tell them, my dentist is over in this building, you need to go to this dentist. And they were like, "Yeah, my dentist is in that building too. Who's your dentist?" "Oh, Dr. Nelson." "Dr. Nelson, that's my dentist too." And the fact that, people try obviously for the sake of this, similar to what he told me, he tried to send people to me, but they were already coming to me. But the thing is, if you treat people right and you do the right things, they'll send you more than enough patients than you can ever want or ever need.
Yeah, yeah, totally. That's in practically any business, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So mentorship is very, very important. Um, Another mentor that I had, I spoke about ethics or dental ethics earlier. One of the mentors that I had, who sadly passed away last October, but his name is Dr. Charles Ross, who was basically the first, well, in the state of Florida, he was the first Black dentist to be head of the board. And he did that three consecutive terms. And for me, he was great because, especially early on in my career, where I didn't know where the ambiguity or where the line was, whenever I ran into what could be an ethical problem, I used to call him up, and sure enough, every single time, whether he picked up the phone right then and there or he called me back within a half hour, and he'll say, "What do you need? What's going on?" And I explain him the story. And because he's been there and he was on the state board, he could tell me, "This is the proper way for you to move forward with this particular patient. If you need to dismiss them, you dismiss them, and this is how you dismiss them." But the dental ethics of things was also a very, very big thing. And I think the ethics matches up with the quote unquote marketing part of it, right? If you treat people right and you do the right things, people will send you patients.
Yeah, yeah, here. So now you move from um, the whole idea of getting the kind of staff you needed to work with. You're humming along. You're doing what you need to do as a business owner, as a dentist, as a pillar of the community. Obviously, um, what were some of your technical challenges as you move, or some of the things that you found that worked really well with you? Some of the better technology, as you saw, well, I need this particular piece of technology, and I haven't gotten it yet, and I need to work it out. I need to figure out how to use it as well. So, what was something
Well,
like that? What was that like?
I think the first piece of technology that really there was a few things, but I think the first thing that really sent me skyward, right, was a CBCT or cone beam X-ray. My same mentor that I started off working with, because implants, especially when I started working with them, were kind of a newer thing, so to speak. And so, one of the things that he always preached to me was, let the specialist place the implants. They do it all the time. They'll do it best. And you just restore the implants, so on and so forth. And as I got deeper into my career, this is probably circa 2017, 2018, I decided, what, in order for me to quote unquote expand my game or take my game to the next level, I should learn how to place implants. And so I purchased a CBCT and I took an implant course. And, one of the things that I always did was, or since I still do it to this day, was I did guided surgery as far as placing implants. And, that was one of the things that helped me take my game to the next level. And so that was the first piece of technology that really set me off, because now I knew I could place these implants confidently. And I could do it as long as I stayed within those parameters. There's still, anterior implants, some of these more complicated stuff. Still sent it out to my specialist, because those specialists are your best friends. You need to, harbor them and learn some really great ones that are in your neighborhood, and lean on them. But I still did a lot of the stuff that I could do for myself, right? And so that was one of the things that, even though one of that same mentor who taught me a whole lot of things, without actually went against the grain of what he actually had taught me, it actually also helped me learn and grow. So CBCT, having that cone beam technology into your office is something that's very, very key. And it's also, speaking of ethics, match it up with ethics again, it is becoming the standard of care, right? And so if you're not seeing everything that's available to you, how can you particularly treat this patient? And if you're not seeing everything, are you giving that patient the best treatment? And so being able to place implants was really one of the things that really took my game to the next level. And so, if I would talk to somebody who's younger, get yourself a CBCT. There's other instruments now that you need, not just for implants, but that are great tools of technology. But that one right there is probably the one that I would say was the number one thing that helped me take my skills to the next level.
Mhm. Yeah, I've heard about these various actually these implant schools for GPs or anybody that wanted to know about um, implants. In Arizona, I don't know if the same organization that's pretty big and pretty popular in Arizona is in Florida, that you have to commute to learn how to place implants back in 2017. Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
Uh,
Um, well, I would say, I know you brought up Arizona. One of the things that I will say, um, we're speaking of mentorship. One of the next thing that I would say is when I was practicing, and I could go into some of the challenges that I had when I first opened up my own practice. But I remember 2 years into practicing, um, I felt that I had only been working on the business aspect of things. And I was working really, really hard on the business and working on the business. And I turned around and I said to myself, I said, okay, now we got the business thing going a little bit, but I feel like I haven't worked on my game. Back to talking about Kobe. And ironically enough, right around that time is when, Drake had that song, You Wasn't With Me Shooting in the Gym, right? And and one of the things that I started saying I actually asked one of my best friends. I posted in a group chat and I said, I felt like I haven't been able to work on my game in a while because I've just been focusing on the business aspect of things. And he says, listen, send me a link. He said, start off with these Spear videos. His name is Dr. Frank Spears,
Right.
which has a teaching institute out in Arizona in Scottsdale.
Right.
And I started doing the videos, and then I went to see his first talk in DC. My first talk of his in DC in 2015, and I could literally, as I got deeper into their curriculum, their teaching curriculum, I could literally see the money uh, rising every year. Ironically enough, I said this quote to them many, many years ago, and actually it's posted on the front page of their website.
Oh,
That, but it was actually true that because I saw more, I was able to talk to the patients more, and patients understood what I was talking about, and they were more willing to do the type of dentistry that I wanted to do because it wasn't just stuff I was making up. It was literally like, your tooth just broke. This is why it broke. Look at when your teeth are doing this. You see how this interacts with that. And that's how that tooth broke. And when you can tell the patients, like, they're like, oh, and when they actually see it, one of the things that I get at least once a week, if not more, is a patient telling me, no other dentist has ever told me that before. How come? Or no one's ever said. As soon as somebody says that to you, you know you already won them over because not only do they see the issue, but they realize, like, oh my God, like, this is what I've been doing to my tooth. This tooth that I've had broken uh, several times over the last few years keeps breaking, keeps getting fixed, keeps getting broken. Why? They keep fixing the problem, but they don't fix the etiology of the problem, right? And so when you start learning how to fix the etiology of a problem, patients will continue to come to you. So another one of my mentors, as indirect as he is, and I've actually told him this personally, is Dr. Frank Spear, who's taught me so much about dentistry. And not only that, but his whole organization. I've learned so much about dentistry and how to do things the proper way and how to talk to patients the proper way. And just the education aspect. I cannot stress that more. That if you want to make big money, quote unquote, in dentistry, you got to be educated. You got to know, and you got to be able to communicate with patients. Because another thing that patients hate is, oh, the dentist just walked into the room. They said I needed this and this and this, and then they walked out of the room. You have to take time to explain to your patients what's going on. Um, yes, it may take you an extra 10 minutes or 15 minutes, but that 15 minutes is going to be so valuable to you because it's not just you treating that patient, it's them sending you their coworkers and their mother and their husbands and their friends. So that extra 10 or 15 minutes that you're spending with that patient explaining to them what's going on with them is invaluable.
hmm. Yeah. Well, so walk me down uh, a day with Dr. John Nelson. What does a day look like for you? I mean, how many patients do you see? When does your day start? Do you ever have a time to spend for yourself, your family? Do you get a chance to work out? I mean, man, it sounds like you're so busy, bro.
Well, the working out aspect, I'll say this, I've been slacking on that. Actually, well, not lately, but in the last, one of the things that I realized that for me, I need to work out early in the morning, right? So I need to, first things, at 6 a.m. I'm at the gym. So I'm up at 5, snooze a couple times, and then I'm at the gym at 6 to 7, shower, then I'm at the office. And I'm at the office from 8 to 5. We have a lunch break from, 1 to 2. Um, and typically, I set myself up in 2 to 3 columns. One is a major block in terms of big jobs that we're doing, like root canals, crowns, veneers, whatever it is. That's going to be in my big column. Then we have like a medium column, so to speak, if you want to call it that, where we're doing some fillings, we're doing extractions, we're doing, seeing our orthodontic patients or Invisalign patients. And then there's a smaller column for limited exams, recalls, or just suture removals, little things like that. So that's the third column. Um, but I'm pretty busy on a daily basis. I mean, I probably see myself. I probably see 25 patients a day, 25 maybe 30, plus the hygiene patients. I wouldn't say 30. So I would probably say 20 to 25 myself, and then probably another 10 to 15 on the hygiene side. So I'm pretty busy.
That's a busy day. And but you did say you had this one special day that you like, hey, I'm taking this is the day, this is the day I'm doing for myself. So it happens to be this day, but I'm sure there's something involved inside the work that you do that
Well, the thing, the way my schedule is set up, Mondays and Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm in there from 8 to 5. On Wednesdays, I'm in there from 10 to 7. Now, the reason why we're open to 10 to 7 is one of the things that as I had this from early on in my practice was to attract those patients that are not able to take off during 8 to 5.
mm,
There's a lot of patients who are hardworking folks
mm,
who are not able to, and I learned this from my mentor, my first initial mentor who I started working with. There's some people who are not able to make it, and it's not that they have easy jobs or simple jobs. It's just their job, the nature of their job doesn't allow them to come to the dentist from 8 to 5. So
mm,
we open to 7 on Wednesdays so that we can capture those patients. And then I'm also open every Saturday, half a day on Saturday, 8 to 12. And again, to capture that same audience. And one of the things that's beneficial for us as well in Miami is, um, jokingly enough, but yes, it's true. We have a lot of what I call South Beach casualties, which are patients who, the bachelorette party, who's in town for the weekend, and one of the girls got a little too tipsy and walked into a sliding glass door
oh
and
my
chipped her tooth, right? Or those folks that are about to go on a cruise, and who are, Miami is one of the cruise capitals of the world, who are about to go on a cruise, and they've been feeling that tinge on their tooth, and they're just scared to get on the ship for 7 days and be at sea for 7 days with a tooth that's kind of bothering them a little bit. So we've also been able to capture a lot on that being open on Saturdays. So being available is one of the big key things in terms of your schedule. And one of the things that we also do for our schedule to keep patients available is um, we always keep on Tuesdays and Thursdays an hour, or sometimes, whether it's on the hygiene side or on my side or the doctor side, is a time available for emergencies.
mm,
And the reason why that's key is, and the reason why we do it on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I mean, I guess technically you could do whatever day you decide to do it, but it's so that when, I remember many years ago, I had a patient who came to me and said they needed a crown re-cemented. So their crown came out and it needed to be re-cemented. And they said, well, I wanted to go to my doctor's office, but they told me that they had nothing for like 3 weeks. No place for me to come back in. And this is their patient of record, to come back in to get the crown re-cemented. And I thought that was, totally absurd. And the reason why we do it on Tuesdays and Thursdays is that, let's say a patient calls me on Monday, and for some reason my schedule is just too booked, too packed for me to get somebody in that Monday, then we can tell them, hey, tomorrow at 11 o'clock, the doctor can see you, right? Or if they call Tuesday, they say, well, today we can see you at 11 o'clock. Or if they call Wednesday, we can tell them Thursday, if anything, Thursday, we can see you tomorrow, right? So it's about keeping that appointment not too far, so far in the distance that you can't see them. So making yourself available in your schedule is very, very key. But what does a typical day look for me? Like gym in the morning, and then cranking out dentistry from 8 to 5, and then after 5 o'clock, it's you know making sure you get time to write up patient's notes, making sure you have time to do some of the clerical things that you do if you own your own office in terms of paying bills or responding to emails and things of that nature. So usually from 5 to 6, maybe even 6:30, that's what I'm doing, and then after that I'm heading home.
Wow,
And
that's a packed day.
yeah,
That is
long
a
day.
packed day, man. And so you kind of keep slots open for Tuesdays and Thursdays. I mean, on a regular then, right?
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
I mean, those days are just open, and if the day just happens to be open, it's open. I mean, I don't.
It's open, and on those days, I mean, granted, for the most part, those slots get filled in because I get lucky enough to do that. But for the most part, if I do have a little bit of time, hey, that's time that I can knock out some more of that administrative stuff that I needed to work on. Um, again, paying bills, talking to labs, responding to patients. Patients have my cell phone number, so they can always reach me. But being able to be accessible, and so using that time slot that if you don't happen to have any patients or anything like that, then you're able to knock out some of the administrative things that you're able to work on, or at the very least, if you do have that extra time, use that time to watch a video, learn something, get your game a little bit better, learn something that you've been interested in. And so I'm actually president of the local chapter for the National Dental Association here. So I have those duties to do as well. So whenever I have time, a little extra time in my schedule, that's what I'm sliding into those moments. But there's never a dull moment, so to speak, right?
No, no, I see, man. I'm like, oh my God. So okay, so you work. So what do you do for fun? Is there something that you do for fun, man?
Well,
I mean, I'm not saying that you're what you don't do, you obviously you enjoy what you do, and so that's fun in and of itself. But aside from that, I mean, like when you break away from that, what do you generally
I
do?
jokingly tell patients, not patients, because I do have students who come by my office, students who are interested in dentistry, or students who are going to dental school. And one of the first things that I always tell them, especially if they're about to start dental school, is I tell them, you're going to have time for one other thing, right? While you're in school. And you're going to need that one other thing because you need to keep that equilibrium, keep that balance to you before you go insane. And so if you're a gym person, then you're gonna have time for that's gonna be the one thing that you have at gym. If For me, my thing is sports. I love sports, and so I would carve out a little bit of time to make sure I watch my Miami Dolphins or my Miami Hurricanes or whatever it is. I make time for sports. If you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, um, that's going to be your free time. But I do believe in making sure that you keep a schedule that allows you to be level headed. And so for me, I like to now my thing is I've been like this for a while, but I like to vacation. And so, I take 1 week to 10 days off in January, and I take another 14 to 17 days off in August. And, I travel the world. And this year, my big trip is to Japan.
Awesome.
Uh, so looking forward to that.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, yeah. So to me, I strongly believe that you can. you can make money and be financially okay, and but you need to take time for yourself. And I guess I'll say this because this is happy actually. The last time I went to Chicago, um, I remember in 2015, the NDA, we had our national convention in Chicago. And that's right around the time when I was telling you that I needed to learn about, take my game to another level. And at that time, I was almost 2 years into my own practice, and I was still working part time in my practice and part time somewhere else. And I remember I came back from Chicago from our national meeting. I had a great time in Chicago. I went to a Cubs game. I saw a no hitter. It was awesome. And I remember on the flight back, I never really felt this before, and I think what it ended up being was some anxiety, right? And I thought maybe it's because, okay, I'm going back to work. Work has been a little stressful. I've been working like 50, 60-hour weeks between two jobs. What's going on? And I was in August, no, July of 2015. And so in August, I'm thinking, okay, maybe this is financial. Who knows? And then in August of that year, we actually had our best month ever in my office. And so I sat back at the end of August or the beginning of September, and I was saying, why am I feeling like this? What's going on? And that's when I made a decision to quit the other job that I was working, the other part time that I was splitting time between the two practices, and just fully engaged in my practice full time. And again, things started continuing to take off from there. And then that feeling went away. And it's when I lessened my stress level, I lessened my work requirements. I and then from there, I learned that I need to take time for myself. I need to
Absolutely.
take time for vacation or just a mental break, just to allow yourself
Yes, sir.
to to zero, bring yourself back to zero, so to speak, bring you back to your equilibrium. And so, sometimes folks think that I'm a little crazy for some of the vacation, some of the amount of time off that I take. Um, but um, but I need it for my sanity, and I work hard.
Yeah.
And but it's definitely important that doctors, um, you know, I know one of the big misconceptions that we have in the world of dentistry is, dentists are suicidal, or they have, you know, uh, you know, there's been, you know, I think in the early '90s, the number one profession for suicides was dentists, and that reputation is kind of carried on over the years, even though it's not true any longer. But one of the things that I would tell dentists is to make sure that they take care of their mental health, to make sure that they take care of, because I think some of the, and I don't know this for sure, I haven't looked at any studies on this, but I think part of the thing is, dentists by nature, we tend to be people who are a little bit more introverts, who tend to keep to themselves, who are not very good with dealing with people, which is weird because we constantly deal with people on a day-to-day basis. But um, we kind of like to come in, do things, and leave, right? Um, but you need to make sure that you take time to take care of your mental health. Uh, Patients come to you whether you like it or not. The first thing sometimes a patient tells you is, I don't like coming to the dentist. I don't like to be here. Or you guys cause pain. You guys are hurt. All that stuff sometimes I think takes a toll on you as a dentist. Um, and, it can get to us. So that's why it's important for us to be able to take that time out, and to give yourself a little bit of perspective. So whether it's, your kids, you want to reinvest into your kids, or your time into your kids, or your vacation, or your significant other, you definitely need to have a hobby or something that helps to keep you balanced and help to keep you sane, so to speak.
Yeah. I really like that whole idea of you saying that, just pick one thing because everything else is going to be locked in. I mean, you're not going to have a slot for that. I never really heard that before. That's an excellent idea.
Yeah.
So, if there was something that you wanted to talk to or leave or give to a young, aspiring dentist or someone that's just coming out as their first year after they've done all of their classwork, they've graduated, they're coming out, what would you prepare them for the first year? What will you be telling them for the first couple of years to expect?
Well, we've had this conversation before. This is one of the things. Here's one of the things. I'll just come out and say it. Here's one of the things that I realized early on in the game, right? And I grew up in '80s and '90s, and there was in those times specifically, there was a lot of the dialogue between pimps and hoes, and but one of the things that I think that helped benefit me, and one of the things that I would tell young dentists is, when you first get out of school, you will get pimped. You know, Older dentists or dentists who are established, who have their practice, they'll bring you in and they'll give you a crappy percentage of your income of your production, and you work in practice with them, and they're doing all the crowns, all the veneers, all the cosmetic stuff, and they're even taking that stuff that you treatment planned, and they're taking it away from you and giving you fillings and the extractions and all the boring stuff. And that can bruise your ego, especially early on, or that can make you feel some type of way, as they like to say. But I think one of the things that I realized early on in the system was that you will get pimped. Okay. Especially now with these DSOs or these major big companies that are out there, they're going to work you to death. They're going to give you a crappy schedule full of stuff, and they're going to drag you into the ground until you can't take it no more. And then they'll bring in the next new graduate that came out and bring them in or bring her in and do the same thing to them. So one thing I would say to young dentists is that to realize that you will get pimped, but there's two ways that you can go from there, right? The first way is you can get upset, let it get to your ego, make you mad, make you angry, make you hate the profession, and make you almost turn your back to the best things of the profession. Or you could take a completely different approach. You could accept that you're being pimped, and now you also want to learn the game, right? Learn the game. Take the notes. Do not let every moment that you're experiencing, especially young in your career, is a teachable moment, right? And if you're not taking the time out to learn those things, and a lot of times if you're angry, if you're upset in regards to the position that you're in, it makes it hard for you to see the light, so to speak, right? And so the beauty that can come out of it is awesome. You are going to get pimped, right? But 2 to 3 years of being pimped, if you learn the game, you can then turn around and pimp others. Or you don't necessarily need to pimp others like that or have others as your quote unquote hoes, right? You can take it better to the next level in terms of, what, do it like my mentor did for me is, what, that next dentist that's coming out that's going to work for me now, I'm not going to put them through what I went through. I'm going to take the time out to teach them the right way to be a dentist in this profession. Because I don't care what they tell you about dental school. And every dentist who's even a year out of dental school will tell you, dental school does not teach you everything you need to know about dental school, about being a dentist. How they never even teach you anything about business, right? Business is a key part. Even if you end up being an associate, right? Learning the business of dentistry is very, very important, because of the fact that, one, obviously, you need to learn how insurances work. You need to learn how to deal with your own finances. If you have your own practice, you need to learn about dealing with the finances of the practice. Where should you hire your staff? What costs should you hire your staff? Supplies. Where should you order your supplies from? What do you actually need? How to consolidate the amount of supplies that you actually need to make sure that it's the bare essential, the bare necessities that you need. You don't need to. One of my Dr. Fleischman, one of the things that he always say is talk about the Google gadget drawer in terms of you're going to have sales reps that are going to come show up into your office at least once a week, trying to sell you something, trying to sell you the next new product, trying to sell you the next new things, because that's what the companies, the supply companies, need you to do. They have this new product, they need to push it, and they need to sell it on some quote unquote suckers, right? And so you need to be able to learn what you need, what's going to help you what's going to help you benefit, what's going to help you benefit your time, what's going to make things shorter for you, what's going to help your patients feel more comfortable, what's going to help your staff make it easier for them, right? And so you need to take the time to learn those things, because if you don't take the time to learn those things, time moves fast. 3 or 4 years will be passed by, and you will felt like you didn't expound and grow yourself as a dentist. And so the quicker you learn that you will get pimped, because it's ugly out there, um, and the real world can be ugly in terms of finances and our jobs. You know, we hear it all the time in corporate America where people downsize. There's always downsizing. You hear Amazon downsizing. Amazon makes billions and billions and billions of dollars. Yet they still cut workers, right? And so, regardless of how high you are, how high you are on that chart that you may feel that you should be on, there's going to be somebody who's going to lord over you, who's going to want to take from you, and to a certain degree, that's okay as long as you get something out of it, as long as you learn, get knowledge out of it. It may not be monetary value, but it may be knowledge, and that is still um, invaluable on many different levels.
This has been great. This has been wonderful. And I know you have much more to talk about. But time has grown near, Doc. So if someone wanted to get in touch with you, I mean, just to ask a question or two, how would they do that?
I mean, the easiest way is probably to email me to my email. My email address is John, JohnAla_Nelson at yahoo.com. Or you could even text me. Yes, I'm available by text, and I'm not afraid of people texting me as long as it's not spamming. 305 and just say, hey, my name is Dr. So and so, or my name is so and so. I heard you talk on the Wealthy Dentist podcast. I have a few questions I'd like to ask you about this or that. And there's so much more that we can go over in terms of dealing with insurance companies and learning how to get your skills to the next level. And I mean, even just in terms of starting a business, starting your own practice, loans, where to get the loans from, uh, dealing with banks, all these things. There's so much things that we can go over. And obviously, this is, I guess, maybe an introductionary visit for us, but there's so much more to learning how to be a successful dentist. And sometimes even for me, I don't even think that I've reached my heights. I think there's higher levels that I can go to. So, always having an open mind to learn. Um, uh, so if you ever have any questions or can teach me something or tell me something or something that you're doing, please don't hesitate to reach out to me via those two ways. And and I'm happy to start a dialogue and a conversation so we can make each other better.
Awesome. Thanks, Dr. Nelson. Thank you for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me, Ward. And again, hopefully we get to do this again, and maybe we can get down into some more nitty gritty things in terms of how do you make how do you grow yourself out of being an associate, and then even after, how do you start your own practice? How do you grow that practice? And then becomes about quality of life. How do you achieve that quality of life thing?
That is so important. All three of those topics sound interesting. So we have them on tape. So I'll circle back to you on that for sure. Thanks again.
Fantastic. Thank you for having me again.
The Wealthy Dentist podcast is built on connections, opportunities, and meaningful conversations that help jumpstart careers and boost the ROI on your business. Is there a topic you're passionate about or someone in the dental community who should share their story with us? We want to hear from you. Email your suggestions to the Wealthy Dentist Podcast at gmail.com, and let's create content that informs, inspires, and uplifts the dental world. Your ideas could spark our next big conversation. Let's make it happen. I'm Ward Powell, your host at the Wealthy Dentist Podcast, thanking you for being a part of our journey.